What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Steve's Random Stuff, or welcome to the channel. Today I'm been working on some videos from our trip to Trinity Lake, trying to get all those together one by one, day by day. I thought I'd do a wrap-up video to kind of go over everything that Andrew and I did over the course of the week, and kind of show you some of the baits that we used and what it took to put together our 40-pound bag. We ended up with, for a 2-day tournament, 10 fish, just over 40 pounds. So took home the win, so really excited about that. Fished with my son. It was always a good time because we fish really well together. And we both take turns running the boat. So anyways, just kind of get into it. We got up to the lake on Wednesday, and we got there probably 2 or 2:30. We checked into Pinewood Cove Resort and unloaded all our gear and stuff, and then we headed down to the boat ramp that they have there and launched the boat, just to get a couple hours in of fishing and just kind of take a look around the lower part of the lake there. So we kind of just headed out of the cove there where the boat ramp is, and then kind of across from the marina there was a little island and a little pocket back there. We saw some fish cruising around, and Andrew was throwing a glide bait. He was throwing kind of the S-Waver bait, standard bait there, and then some larger baits as well, some 7-8 inch glide baits. Saw some followers, saw a few fish kind of cruising around. The water temperature was up probably 75 degrees, but it was a pretty hot day that day, and it was late in the afternoon. So kind of fished through there. I caught a couple on a shaky head with the Yamamoto worm. 6.5 Pro Senko, kind of a watermelon candy color. So we kind of fished through there, then we headed on down past the dam to the Papoose Creek arm. Went all the way to the end of that, just to take a look, and saw a bunch of fish back there. Saw all the fish jumping, a lot of bait, a lot of kokanee jumping, and saw some bass cruising around back there, and we fished that. Probably caught a couple back in there, but not too much. And then it was getting late in the day, so we kind of headed back. It was probably close to 6 o'clock. By then, we headed back over to Pinewood Cove. We were about to come in, and Andrew says, "Hey, let's go fish the end of this pocket here where the boat docks are, and just to kind of finish out the day." So we headed on back there, fishing down the bank. We get to the back of the cove, and Andrew throws a swim jig up next to the trees where the incoming water is, and gets hammered and catches like a 3.5 pounder. So then he catches a second fish, I think, there. Another good quality 2.5, 3 pounder. And then I took my jig, I had a brown and orange jig in there, and I flipped that up next to the bushes where the water was coming in, a little gap. And I get hammered, and I catch another 3 pounder. So within like 10 or 15 minutes, we had 3 good quality fish, probably for 10 pounds, just those 3 fish. So that kind of got us going in the direction we went for the rest of the week. So Thursday was our kind of our first full day of pre-fishing. We headed up to Trinity Center to launch, because that's where the tournament was going to go out of, primarily because the launch at Pinewood Cove is not quite big enough for everybody. The marina was, I guess, off limits to us. Maybe it's private, I don't know. And then, of course, Minersville, which we used last year, doesn't have any docks. It's just basically the ramp itself and nothing else. So we all ended up to Trinity Center, launched up there, kind of in the morning, fairly early, and we just kind of went up the Trinity arm, fished the incoming water areas. We kind of call it the community hole where everybody fishes. There's incoming water on the left side. Then we headed up towards the tail races up there on the very end of the river. Fish that. We get up there and we see a bunch of trees, so we start fishing the trees. And Andrew's throwing a swim jig in the trees, and then he catches a few fish on that. And then I was throwing a spinner bait, the Mr. B spinner bait here. And so I picked this up and flipping it up around the trees. And I start getting hammered, like when the first 5 feet it hit the water, it would start to let it flutter down, and the fish were just crushing that spinner bait. I got that paired up with the Hazardong shad and the Ghost ghost shad color, I think, on this one. I'm also using the Shio Kosho color. See that one there. This is probably the Shio Kosho. It's a little more solid, whereas the ghost shad has kind of a pink hue to it. That was kind of my trailer for the whole weekend with the spinnerbait as well as the swim jigs. At one point I put on this other color. This is the Morocco color. It's more of like a Tennessee shad color. It's got the kind of a green pumpkin back. That worked good with like a sexy shad swim jig, a little bit darker bait. Those are kind of the three trailers I use: the ghost shad, the Shio Kosho, and the Morocco. So anyways, we fished kind of through there, and then we kind of just came back downriver, fished some of the other tail races. Anywhere where there's trees, we'd fill up the trees and catch a fish or two. We kind of headed over to the East Fork of the Trinity, getting some trees up there. It's pretty flat up there and fairly shallow, especially on the right side. So we got up there and didn't really catch much over there. So we just kind of worked our way down river, fished some of the creeks, Sawmill Gulch. We went in there, caught a couple fish, headed down river farther to the Hay Gulch, went all the way back to the end of the Hay Gulch. And by this time, because we had fished kind of a lot of the areas up in the north end, it was probably like the 2:30 or so. Time we started coming out of Hay Gulch, maybe even 3 o'clock. So we kind of went down to the next creek on the opposite side, which, looking at the map here, is called Clawton Gulch. So we get back there, the wind is picking up, it's pretty strong. We get in the back, we're just kind of swimming through there. I think I'm throwing I don't know what I was throwing, Texas rig or something. Throwing a jerk bait, throwing crank baits, just throw a variety of baits, just throwing a spinner bait. But anyways, throwing a swim jig. We threw a swim jig a lot because we were getting a lot of fish on those. Throwing the Mr. B swim jigs primarily. And here's one of them. We're throwing the white, the shad colors, this kind of skirt with more of the shad colored skirt. So it was pretty windy by the time it was after 3 o'clock. And it picks up my spinnerbait rod and starts throwing it, and then catches probably 5 fish in, I don't know, in a half an hour, 5 or 6 fish on the spinnerbait. And they ended the day with a 5 1/4 largemouth. Threw it up by just off the bank, about 5 feet, reeling it slowly, and catches that 5-pounder. So really good way to end the day. We kind of finished up a little shortly after that, and we figured we probably had somewhere in the 17-18 pound range for the day. We didn't really keep track much on Thursday. So Friday, we decided to launch again at Pinewood Cove Resort because we wanted to fish the lower part of the lake. We wanted to fish all the coves from kind of where we stopped on Thursday and just kind of work our way down. So we got an early start because we were able to launch right where we were staying. And we actually headed first over to Smith Gulch. That's the main creek on the south side of the main body down there. Started throwing some topwater. I was throwing my Vixen and Andrew was throwing a spook, and we had a really quick limit on that, probably like a 12 or 13 pound limit just on topwater baits. So that kind of died off, and then I picked up a rod with a sleeper gill in the pumpkin seed color. There was a lay down tree and some bushes, so I flipped around there and I caught a couple fish on the sleeper gill. So that was pretty cool because I hadn't really caught a fish on that bait yet. So that was kind of maybe something that could lead to more fish later in the week. So we left that creek and then we just kind of headed up the river. Went as far as Feeney Gulch, and that's the one that kind of goes off to the east. That goes, you go into the creek and it forks into two different arms. So I went from there and then we kind of worked our way back down the river, fishing all those cuts and all those creek arms with a variety of baits. On Friday, we kind of used more plastic baits. I was throwing a Texas rig with the Yamamoto Mermaid on there. This one kind of lost one of its flappers, but this is the color that was working well. It's a green pumpkin with the red flake and kind of a chartreuse laminate color on the back. I was also throwing a watermelon, black flake, Sanchuo, mainly because Andrew was throwing a tube bait that in the watermelon color, and he was getting fish on the tube bait. So another bait that was working really well for me on Friday was this crankbait. This is Lucky Craft CB250. This is an old school bait that I had for a long time. This Aurora black color was really working. I ended up cutting this off and using some different baits. I had another one in the kind of the citrus shad, or the white, the white shad color. Didn't get as many bites on that one as I did with this one, but I cut this off just because I didn't want to lose it, and tried a lot of other baits throughout the day in similar colors, just to see if I can get a bite and see if the fish would react to that. So the crankbait was really working on that day. The swim bait continued to work. Also threw this Savage Gear little glide bait. It's a little smaller. This is a smaller bait than the S Waver, as you can see. But this color kind of more matched the crankbait, and also kind of matched the kokanee that we saw jumping with the dark back. So I caught a few fish on that as well. So that was really nice. And then Friday, after we kind of bounced through the creeks, then we kind of went over to the West Fork. I forget what that's called, off the main river as we're kind of coming back. We kind of get up to a point, and Andrew throws his tube up off this point. There's some rocks, kind of a transition area into kind of a smooth red clay bank. Throws it up there, probably shakes it a little bit, and he gets hammered, catches a six pounder on the tube bait. So that bumped our weight for the day up to just over 19 pounds. We actually kept a track on Friday just because we wanted to see how we did throughout the day. That 6 pounder kicked us up just over 19 pound mark for the day. So we're pretty happy with that. We kind of figured out a pattern that the fish were either on the trees or they were on those flats. And those fish were, a lot of them we caught were red on the bottom, red tails, kind of bloody. So they were definitely in the spawn mode. So we knew those fish were going to be, in one of the two spots, either in the trees. And up north, the water's a little cooler, about 61, 62 degrees. Whereas you get down the river, the water gets warmer up into the upper 60s and even 70 degrees. So water temperature was a big deal, depending on where you were. So Saturday comes along. We head straight back up the river to the tree line up by the rock, by the tailings. And we just start throwing swim jigs, just flipping them into the trees. And we had a limit probably within an hour. And then right after that, just started calling. We caught a lot of fish that day on the swim jigs. Andrew was also he started flipping a D-bomb. This is a green pumpkin with some blue, kind of a blue flake on the bottom. I don't know what it's called, but he had a lot of success on that bait. But anyways, we're just flipping the trees. Mostly with swim jigs. I lost a lot of these baits throughout the week, through Saturday and Sunday. Kind of went through my entire supply and had to improvise on Sunday, but I matched this up with the same trailer with the Hazardong shad. That worked really well. The white skirt, or the shad skirt, kind of like the spinner bait. And then I had one that was almost all the scale pattern on Sunday that I improvised with, and with the ghost shad color, that really worked. But this fish were really clobbering this white and chartreuse for whatever reason. That one was really successful. I went down and went over to the East Fork again and kind of fished some of the areas there, and there's the cove that's over there on the left side where that island is. We went in there. I was throwing the crankbait, caught a couple there. Then Andrew started throwing his swim jig across the point and sticks another 4 pounder. So another good call there. We're getting rid of anything that's under 3 pounds, and had a really good bag at that point. And then we kind of just went looking, kind of pre-fishing for Sunday in a way. So again, we ended up with 1888 for the day. Really good bag. Basically throwing those same baits. We did have one die in the live well for some reason throughout the day. So we got a little penalty on that, but we ended up basically tied for first with Ron and his partner Garrett. They had 18 and some change, 18 and a half or so. So really close on the weights. We're basically fishing the same areas up on the north end, up on the rock tailings, although he was fishing Kitex and jigs up in the rocks where we were fishing out farther on the trees. So if you're up in that area, you know, throw those swim baits up around the rocks, and those fish seem to be on the points. So in those big rock tailings, you want to kind of go out on the points of those and then throw across the points with your Kitex and your swim baits, and you'll catch some fish doing that as well. So that was a Saturday, really good day. Sunday, again, we launched early. We're launching like 5:30 in the morning. We head straight back up north to the rock tailings. Instead of stopping out in front where the first rock pile is, we kind of go up the side and we hit the trees. Andrew's flipping the D-bomb. I'm throwing the swim jig, and it's kind of a slow bite in the morning. Andrew caught one, and then it just took us a while to get through there. Went through the old trees, didn't catch any fish. We kind of went into the rock tailing area. There was some trees back in there, and I guess throwing a swim jig again, and kind of threw it across one of those points that were sticking out, and I catch a 3-pounder. I get over by the trees that are in the middle. I flip out there and I catch another one, probably about a 2.5 or so. Kind of fish up through the trees and back, and then we turn around and we go back up for one more pass. Then there's a little pocket back in there that's kind of horseshoe shaped and kind of dead ends. We go up in there, and I'm coming back, and I throw my swim jig again by this lay down tree. I catch a 4-pounder. So that was a good call at that point. Come back out, fish for the trees one more time, get up to the other trees, and then Andrew stakes a 4-pounder on the D-bomb. He catches a couple other good quality fish up there, kind of the same area that I caught my 4-pounders on Saturday. So at that point, we got a really good limit. Sunday, like I said, I had to kind of improvise because I broke off most of my swim jigs, if not all of them. So Andrew has some of these just plain, swim bait heads with the weed guards on there, and I happen to have some old spinnerbait skirts, and so I would just rig this up there on the swim bait heads, stick a trailer on there, a Hazardong shad, and I was ready to rock. And that worked really well. I had some different colors. This is kind of a brown head, but I had one that was a green head, and with that scale pattern skirt like that, with the ghost shad, that one produced some good fish. Sunday, like I say, we got up to the tailings, we fished the trees. We had a good limit after that, so we kind of went out by the big rock pile, and we're throwing these big swim baits. These are the Shasta bass baits, and one of these guys, and throwing it on a beast hook. Throwing that big old boy around those rock tailings, kind of out on the points again, and I'm just swimming along. I was going, boom! I get bit. Like, okay, let's fish her here. So keep fishing. I throw it out. A few more casts later, all of a sudden, wham! I get slammed. I set the hook, and there's nothing there. I think these fish are biting the tails because I got a little tear back here on the tail. So I got whacked on that, and then a few minutes later, Andrew's throwing the same thing. He gets hammered, but nothing to show for it. So I pick up my swim jig again, throw it out in about 10 or 12 foot of water, let it hit the bottom, and just start slow rolling it, slow rolling it. And then all of a sudden it just loaded up. I set the hook, and that fish took off running. Was pulling drag. I thought maybe I had like a 7 or 8 pounder on there. It was just pulling. I couldn't get the fish to turn. I couldn't get the fish to come up right away. And I just kind of kept reeling it, give it a little bit of slack, or not slack, but a little bit of drag. And eventually got that fish up to the boat, and we netted it, and it was about 4.5 pounds. So again, on a swim jig. So that was just really kind of the key all week, was just throwing the swim jig. I think that was probably our third 4-pounder for the day on Sunday. And then after that, we just kind of you know, we had a 2 o'clock weigh-in, so we kind of went back to some other coves and just looking for something different, see if we can get another big fish. But caught some other fish, you know, that were smaller but didn't cull. But you know, by 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, when you know, I caught that 4-pounder, we probably, you know, would put us up in the 21.5 pound range. So we ended the day on Sunday with 2155, I believe the weight was, which gave us a total bag just over 40 pounds for the 2 days, and take home the win. So that's kind of pretty much all the baits that we're using. Again, the fish were in the trees, or they're on the flats. They're spawning. If you were worming, you weren't catching the big ones. That's kind of how it went for a lot of people. Our buddy Mike that was fishing, he was catching them on a frog, which is, can you believe that? He was going into the backs of those creeks where we were fishing, but he was throwing a frog on the scum that's on the water and that pollen that was building up and all the wood debris that's back there. He was catching frogfish. Pretty crazy, but give that a try as well. Kitex on those rocks, and that's about it. All right, so special thanks to Mr. B Lure Company for all the baits, swim jigs, and the spinner baits. I'll have to hit you up, get some more of those swim jigs, because I'm plumb out. This is my last one, and this actually was Andrew's that he pulled out of his bag. Like I said, we had to improvise. So thanks to Mr. B Lure Company. If you want to check out all his baits, check out the MrBLureCompany.com. Thanks to my son Andrew. Got a great time fishing with him, and it's always fun because we fish well together. So hopefully that information helps you. Looking forward to getting back up there again someday. Maybe again next year we'll do this trip again. It's an annual kind of long range trip for the club. A lot of fun, good times with everybody, and looking forward, like I said, to get out there again. Trinity Lake is a trek for us. It's about 5.5 hour drive, but it's well worth it. You know, you spend a few days on the lake. So anyways, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Appreciate you watching. Help me build the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.